Hello, welcome to the Hot Pursuit. Today we are going to talk about several agenda items currently Turkey is debating, and our guest today is Yavuz Baydar, Editor-in-Chief of Ahval. Welcome to the program.
Good to be with you, Ilan.
So there are several issues today, July 9th, Thursday, and Turkey is discussing whether Hagia Sophia is going to turn into a mosque. Last several days, two high-profile pro-government columnists who are closely linked to the palace stated that Turkey's top court already decided to turn to museum, Hagia Sophia Museum, into a mosque. And this is also happening on the anniversary of the July 15, which will be 4th year anniversary of the coup attempt that happened in 2016, July 15. Can you tell us why this is happening and what would be the consequences and likely political benefits for the current administration in Turkey?
Well, Ilan, if you mean by what is happening now, you mean the sort of, you mentioned two columnists
Yes.
telling or predicting or informing that the Hagia Sophia, the ruling is clear to be announced tomorrow. Today is July 9, and tomorrow is a Friday, and July 10th, and the court State of Council, to be exact, had about a week ago said we will basically announce the ruling in about 2 weeks. And everyone understood it quite correctly that the announcement of the ruling will come before 15th of July, which is the 4th anniversary of the attempted coup. But maybe strangely, yesterday, as of Wednesday, July 8, we started seeing some activity in social media. Not only these two columnists, but also well-known supporters of the government, well-known Islamist columnists, a few people, a couple of conservative lawyers, basically sort of repeated each other in a way, saying that unanimously the court had already decided to reconvert Hagia Sophia into a mosque from its current status as museum. It's hard to interpret what this activity is all about, but most probably it's a spin, preparing the ground for the public opinion for what is coming, but also perhaps one would say testing the ground for what the international reactions could be to that. So we are where we are at the moment with the spin that, as I see it, and we will see if the court ruling will come tomorrow or not. But it shouldn't delay any further than maybe 2 or 3 days. And what will court say? It's also open to debate. There are two theories. One is that the Council of State will say this is not in our jurisdiction, because the decision to convert Hagia Sophia from a mosque to a status during the Atatürk administration, 1934, was an administrative decision, not a court decision. And therefore, referring to our earlier decisions, the court will probably say, may say, it's not in our jurisdiction. The ball is at the palace's court or the Erdogan administration's court. The second, the court may say, this is the alternative B, yes, we have decided, unanimously or not, whatever the vote will be, to reconvert Hagia Sophia into a mosque. But in order for this ruling to be implemented, next step should be Erdogan administration, President Erdogan himself. He will have to sign this ratify this court ruling. So we are in between these two alternatives. But the debate is strangely quite low-key in Turkey. As we observe international scene, especially the Orthodox Church, wherever it is represented, is reacting strongly. And also certain allies of Turkey are reacting, maybe not as strongly as the church, but still saying that leave it as it is. Don't do that type of messages. But at home, there is a strange current going on. The main opposition, secular party, CHP, during whose rule in 1934, Hagia Sophia, under Atatürk's rule, was converted into a museum, is remarkably silent or low-key, not reacting, actually, as one would expect from a secular party to react. Also, another strange dimension is the so-called militarist allies of the current government, AKP, MHP, coalition or alliance, the ruling alliance of Turkey, enjoys also the silent support of the former officers, some of whom were tried in Ergenekon and sledgehammer trials. Now that they are united, those ex-generals, ex-officers who fiercely battled against Erdogan during the early millennia are keeping silent. So it seems to be a very remarkable consensus at home at the moment, that there are no reactions, and one should perhaps interpret it as yet another symbolic threshold that we are passing, which delivers a very, very severe blow to one of the foundations of Turkey as some sort of state-controlled secular republic. Hagia Sophia is not only a mosque or museum or a church. Its symbolic goes far beyond as a symbol for whatever remains of multiculturality, multi-religious tissue of Turkey. And once it is converted into a mosque, it will be interpreted as a reconquest of the building, of the monument, and to be declared as yet another victory by President Erdogan. One of the commentators actually put a very interesting point saying that first it was Fatih Sultan Mehmet II who conquered Istanbul, and by reconquering, quote unquote, Hagia Sophia, Erdogan will be ready to declare himself as the second conqueror of Istanbul after so many centuries. So this is where we are. So I would just conclude by saying that we are, as journalists and observers, waiting in excitement for what is coming, this historic decision, and it will basically underline another very sharp turning point in modern Turkey's history.
Almost all reputable Turkey observers would agree that the reason to turn this museum into a mosque mostly is about symbolics. It's not about, anything else, but if a government, if political party, if the leader is going for it, that means he expects to gain some political support. But we are looking at political scene of Turkey. We don't see any early election at least in this year. Some suggest that could be next year. Why Erdogan would not wait another year or two and do this before the election instead of just doing it now, which would probably any benefit that will come out of this might evaporate in a month or two?
That's a very good question and a very good point, actually. That's one of the questions that we as editors are struggling with, because it is hard to predict what is really happening in the mind of President of Turkey. One possible analysis would be that Erdogan pushed the gas pedal because of the hugely accelerating economic crisis, especially on the front with Hagia Sophia on part of the front, and second with Libya as part of the front, which he hopes will boost nationalism to the beyond the limits, and also recent cross the operations into Iraqi soil, the Kurdistani part of Iraq. We see the acceleration there very clearly. Intensification of these steps are very clear, and it's all having a domestic appeal in this planning, in this choreography. But one possible interpretation about the expected ruling on Hagia Sophia would be Erdogan maybe has in mind a packaged court ruling telling him, okay, sir, this is your ruling. You have Hagia Sophia. You can push the opening button whenever you want. Erdogan can delay with or play with this ball in his court as long as he likes to. He can tell the audience, okay, now that we are there, Hagia Sophia is ours finally, after so many decades, and it was one of the huge wrongs of the Kemalist past or Republican past, etc., etc. And now I am going to open it, but let's wait a little bit, etc., etc. Or he can just go on doing that and test the ground after opening the Hagia Sophia to prayers, and also maybe in synchronization with the steps he hopes that there will be taken in Libya, etc. So it's a multi-frontal campaign, actually, which I think many observers in the international scene are really not able to see from a higher altitude. So this is where we are with the domestic political engineering dimension of it. But something opposing to this is that Hagia Sophia was always a trump card in Erdogan's hand for so many years. Mm-hmm. And whenever he felt squeezed to a corner, people started debating, oh, will he open Hagia Sophia to prayers or not? Will he open to Hagia Sophia prayers or not? This was like a yo-yo ball coming and going. So I think he is now gambling because he is now, if he opens Hagia Sophia, he will have run out of one of the most powerful trump cards vis-a-vis his domestic audience, his grassroots, his supporters, etc. So this will be interesting to see what will come next after this.
I think also it will be interesting to see how Russia and US has been quiet, but it seems that Russian officials and institutions have been reacting very harshly, and whether Putin will make a phone call with Erdogan to prevent this, we will see whether that will happen. The second big agenda in Turkey today...
One possible interpretation could be that Erdogan has always been a hard gambler, hard arms wrestler. He may be hoping, erratically or not, it's open to interpretation, that he can hold also Hagia Sophia as a sort of a trump card vis-a-vis Russia. That, okay, I will not touch it, but I need these and these concessions with you. Or vis-a-vis Washington, D.C., saying that, fine, but what do I get in return? I think he cares much less about what the Greek reactions would be. In terms of magnitude, I think what matters is Moscow or Washington, D.C. And after all, at the end of the day, if you look at from realpolitik point of view, realistically, it's a domestic issue. I mean, many Greeks also agree with that. It's a domestic issue, Hagia Sophia issue. It's an issue with cultural dimensions. It's a UNESCO issue, actually. So it's very hard for the international community to respond to that kind of decision. Very complicated. But again, its repercussions, its consequences, if such a decision is taken, will be, I think, far more long-term rather than short-term. We will see many interpretations of Turkey abolishing, terminating, discontinuing its multiculturality, its respect for other religions, etc. There are many other dimensions. I mean, Turkish government under Erdogan or before governments, for example, they have never really, they have never taken seriously the Alevites' demands for their own prayer houses, jam houses, despite, I think, 2 or 3 severe rulings by the European Court of Human Rights. So, religious freedom has always been a thorny issue in Turkey, and Hagia Sophia is at the very center of this debate now, with its huge monumental weight, let's say.
Well, we will continue to discuss Hagia Sophia, that's for sure, and we'll see how this ruling is going to come, whether tomorrow, July 10th, or next few days, and then we'll take it from there. Second big item in Turkey now, thousands of lawyers have been marching and protesting against the government bill that basically changes laws on how these bar associations operate. They weaken them and politicize them. Why? Because especially Istanbul, Ankara, and Izmir bar associations have been very outspoken and very effective in many matters when they come out publicly against the government decisions or remarks. Now I think we are coming to an end on this issue. The lawyers are still protesting as we speak. They are still protesting in Ankara, in Park. On the other hand, the president of the Turkish lawyers, bar associations, Feyzioğlu, apparently is in the parliament and watching the bill, basically, I think, endorsing by sitting in the parliament. Can you tell us, our viewers, significance of this bill and what will happen once it passes and signed by the president?
As Ahval English, with you as editor, reported quite extensively about this issue, I would first advise our viewers and listeners to have a look at those stories published by Ahval to understand the underlying reasons for this, let's say, uprising or unrest of the Turkey's defense corps, legal defense corps, which is very significant in a way, comparable to perhaps, in a way, Gezi protests 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago. On the surface, the reason, the cause that triggered these reactions were actually the bar associations' critique to Directorate of Religious Affairs, Diyanet, which issued a sort of one many see as a fatwa against homosexuals, LGBT actually groups, calling it sort of a social sickness, harmful, etc., against our national values, etc., which caused immediate uproar. And one of the most vocal ones were the bar associations, which in turn infuriated President Erdogan, which the level of the decibel of the reaction of Erdogan was clearly understandable enough how deeply this issue of dealing and handling bar associations were carved in his mind for a long time. In such administrations, such as Turkey's, which is clearly shifting towards a hardcore, full-fledged autocracy, any kind of jarred voice, objection, collective objection or individual objection, protest, etc., are seen as redundant, something that need to be eradicated, which happens with the Kurdish dissent, with the youth dissent in Gezi protests, with different civil society groups, journalists and media, critical parts of the media, etc. So this was, I think, clearly a window of opportunity for Erdogan team to handle the bar association, defense lawyers collective, because they are knowledgeable about law. They know the constitution. They know all the laws, and they are loud and they are resistant. Most of them have long experiences of defending human rights, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, etc., etc. So this was the on the surface the main reason that triggered it. But I think the marches, the assemblies of the bar associations trying to enter into the Turkish capital about a week ago, and as you say, the reactions are still continuing today, was another test for Erdogan administration, whether or not the other parts of the society, whether or not Turkey's what many see as a sleepwalker main opposition will come to align itself with, is happening or not. It is not happening. So Erdogan is testing the ground. It's yet another laboratory, and the reactions are weak. Defense lawyers in their defenses, in their reactions, in their battles with the police and security apparatus are left to their own devices. Meanwhile, Erdogan accelerated the pace and took these amendments, which bar association's reaction to Diyanet caused. This was a pretext, and now Turkey is going to a sort of a multiple bar association model, which, of course, the criticizers see as clearly as a divide and rule move, which happened in other parts of the societies in the opposition or other professional groups and civil society in general. But this is one of the last straws, because if one speaks about the most loud and resistant and decisive civil society professional force in any country, it is the bar associations, it is the lawyers. And once they are out of the way, I think the road will turn into a sort of a superstrada. It's a kind of a highway for Erdogan to handle the rest. This is where we are as we speak. Parliament is debating this debatable, highly debatable bill, which by the arithmetics of Parliament will pass, definitely. And unfortunately, all the criticism to the main opposition and its small ally, E party on the right, are true, because they are only being vocal on the floor of Parliament, unable to do anything else, unable to take it to the streets, align themselves with the lawyers. This is a momentum, of course, where Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, the chairman of the main opposition, Meral Akşener, had to decide. The Kurds, the Kurdish party HDP, is already ready to take it to the streets, but together with the other opposition parties. But it's wounded It's really harmed by the operations, the Kurdish party. So these two opposition parties are only whining loudly without being able to do anything else than saying, okay, you can pass the bill, but we will take it to the Constitutional Court. The hopelessness of the situation is that the Constitutional Court is highly intimidated by President Erdogan and his team for about 2 months now. It is still unable to handle a complaint by the main opposition to enhance the parole bill that would also include the political prisoners to be released from the prisons due to corona. 2 months have passed, and the Constitutional Court is still silent. So this shows us enough how locked the political scene is, how locked the high court level is, and it is, as you mentioned in your question, it is a choreography with July 15, 4th anniversary of the attempted coup, a choreography which I think will give us a much more clear, high-pixel snapshot of how far the walk towards autocracy, Turkish autocracy, has been gone. Many people, again, in the international scene, either are not willing to see this tragic change, tragic shift, or unable to.
This might be my final question. Just yesterday, pro-Kurdish HDP leader Selahattin Demirtas, or the day before, sent a few tweets saying that this administration is going to lose next elections. And I'm just tying this question to your last remarks. It appears that the main opposition party, CHP, and E party as well, they also argue that this AKP coalition is now in the minority, and economic situation is getting more dire every single day. So the argument goes, as you know, this administration is, in their last term, and we should just continue this opposition without going to the streets, but staying at the parliament and fight to the end.
By his message from prison, Selahattin Demirtas, jailed for so many months now, may be a little bit too optimistic about talking about when he talks about elections or opposition's chances in the elections. The main question is, to be debated seriously, is whether or not there will be any minimum fair elections at all from now on in Turkey, because all the engineering, all the dimensions that we mentioned, the steps, concrete steps, are telling us that there will not be. Also added to the fact that there is a preparation of so-called security control, clearance system of citizens, which is very interesting because it may lead to a sort of a Central Asian type of citizen control, profiling, saying that, let's say, Mr. X, Mr. Ilhan Taner is not an undesirable person to be elected, to be nominated for election from any party. And this kind of alienation is really a fact that screams coming for the next elections, and all because, as you mentioned, the administration is fearful because the crisis is deepening, but administration is really acting comfortably due to the sleepwalking status of the main opposition party and its small ally E party. They constitute no counter dynamics, no challenges to the Erdogan administration. Even if there are some sort of shifts, changes of resignations within parliament from AKP to other parties, even if things turn in disfavor of Erdogan administration within parliament, it under current conditions will not mean anything for Erdogan. He can continue with a hung parliament. He can continue with a parliament in which opposition is in majority, because the Turkey is not ruled by elected government from people. It's ruled by a government elected by Erdogan. And also Turkey's parliament is basically a rubber stamp office at the moment. It has absolutely no checks and balances function anymore. It is only a sort of a billboard where opposition members are basically attaching their questions or coming out to the floor screaming without any results. So it's an echo chamber, basically, Turkish parliament. So this is the ugly reality of Turkey. So again, Demirtas may be hoping that there will be some sort of alliance, etc., etc. But let me tell you, Ilan, inside information that we get is that there is talk about democracy alliance for a long time, which would unite CHP main opposition, the right-wing opposition party, E-Party, HDP, also small conservative religious party, SP, etc., etc. But their inside talks, and this is the sources that tell us, lead nowhere, because they don't interpret alliance as a democracy alliance per se, like a civil rights battle in the United States, or any kind of anti-apartheid united front in South Africa. They understand alliance as an alliance for ballot box. It's minimized concept, which of course makes the current government very, very comfortable, because they cannot unite about certain principles: democracy for each and every individual, democracy for every social group, every interest group, every creed, every age group, every gender, each gender, etc. All of these things are about principles. But my sources tell me, no, they don't speak in those terms, and they don't agree in those terms. What they seem to tell each other is, or when you talk with them, is okay, but we can do the ballot alliance, ballot box alliance or not. We can do it, or we don't want to do it, etc. It's like an endless talk, which leads nowhere in Ankara.
Okay, on that note, thank you so much.
We can also add our listeners and viewers for another, of course, most of them are informed about this serious step, is that before Parliament recesses for summer, there will be also a bill about internet and social media, which is the only remnant, somewhat influential public discourse platform in Turkey. Rest is gone. And newspapers have no significance whatsoever on the left side, because people read less and less and buy less and less newspapers. And television channels are almost fully under control after the threatening closure decision by the Radio Television Supreme Board about Halk TV channel and Imece TV, the Tele1 TV channel, which were also on the critical opposition flank. And so the rest is internet and social media. And there is also an angry debate going on, threatful discourse going on, rhetoric going on, which will reflect upon in a hardening decision by Parliament, majority decision, whose content we still don't know. But under the circumstances, if we see that Turkey's completion of a full-fledged autocracy is a target, hardest possible, most restrictive possible content is to be expected out of that social media and internet bill in the coming days. So all in all, to summarize, July 15, 4th anniversary of the attempted coup, will be a significant day. All the signals are telling us that. Let's see if we are right or wrong.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been a very insightful and very current discussion, and we will continue discussing all these issues next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming up.